Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for honors to the guest of honor and the commanding officer, and remain standing for the march on of the colors, the national anthem, and the entry of the traditional birthday cake.
Present. Sur. Order. Sur.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
Parade, first.
On November 1st, 1921, John A. Lejeune, 13th Commandant of the Marine Corps, directed that a reminder of the honorable service of the Corps be published by every command to all Marines throughout the globe on the birthday of the Corps. Since that day, Marines have continued to distinguish themselves on many battlefields and foreign shores, in war and peace. On this birthday of the Corps, therefore, in compliance with the will of the 13th Commandant, Article 38, United States Marine Corps Manual, edition of 1921, is published as follows.
On November 10, 1775, a Corps Marine was created by a resolution of Continental Congress. Since that date, many thousand men have worn the name Marine. In memory of them, it is fitting that we, who are Marines, should commemorate the birthday of our Corps by calling to mind the glories of its long and illustrious history. The record of our Corps is one which will bear comparison with that of the most famous military organization in the world's history. During 90 of the 167 years of its existence, the Marine Corps has been in action against the nation's foes. From the Battle of Trenton to the Argonne, Marines have won foremost honors in war. And in the long eras of tranquility, at home, generation after generation of Marines have grown great in war in both hemispheres and in every corner of the 7 seas, that our country and its citizens might enjoy peace and security. In every battle and skirmish since the birth of our Corps, Marines have acquitted themselves with the greatest distinction, winning new honors on each occasion until the term Marine has come to signify all that is highest in military efficiency and soldierly virtue. This high name of distinction and soldierly repute, we who are Marines today have received from those who preceded us in the Corps. With it, we also received from them the eternal spirit which has animated our Corps from generation to generation and has been the distinguishing mark of Marines in every age. So long as that spirit continues to flourish, Marines will be found equal to every emergency in the future as they have been in the past. And the men of our nation will regard us as worthy successors to the long line of illustrious men who have served as soldiers of the sea since the founding of the Corps. John A. Lejeune, Lieutenant General, United States Marine Corps.
The inspiring message of our 13th Commandant has left its mark in the hearts and minds of all Marines. Ladies and gentlemen, a message from the Commandant and Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps.
So it's more than just honor or, an obligation. It's human nature. It's your family, your brothers, your friends. That's what you do for a brother.
You did your duty above and beyond, and you kept the faith with the highest traditions of the Marine Corps that you left.
It's like I told Cesar Rodriguez Chavez, we're going to either go in there or we're going to die trying.
2011 marks the 70th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor and the 10th anniversary of the terrorist attacks on 9/11.
The relationship between December the 7th and September the 11th took place 60 years apart, both by airplanes. It was unexpected, and on December the 7th, again it was unexpected on September the 11th. Who would ever think such a thing happening, of all places, the towers in New York? It's unbelievable. Still can't comprehend such a thing is happening. And I couldn't comprehend such a thing happening in 1941.
And I had seen some of the most horrible things that a 20-year-old kid couldn't really ever imagine. Now, when you see a ship made out of steel, you You know the hulls of those ships were 6-10-inch solid steel. The Japanese built torpedoes, had wood fins and all, so they float just 2 foot under the water. The harbor was only 40 feet deep. At that time, I was standing guard by the dry docks. Nobody thought anything except just a beautiful day.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
When the dust settled, the Japanese attack claimed the lives of 2,409 Americans and left another 1,200 wounded.
No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
The attacks on Pearl Harbor ignited a fierce national pride that caused many Americans to want to serve their country. Places like Parris Island, San Diego, and Montford Point all saw large numbers of recruits come to defend their nation as Marines.
The devastating toll of these incidents was eclipsed only by the awe-inspiring stories of heroism that emerged from those days, when our nation responded to tragedy with indomitable spirit, unconditional compassion, fierce national pride, and unshakable resolve.
On December the 7th, 1941, Marines and sailors not only showed that they were well trained, they embodied the courage and indomitable spirit for which America is known.
Storming beaches, prevailing against insurmountable odds, the Marines of World War II showed the world the meaning of uncommon valor.
Not until September the 11th in 2001 would the United States see another attack of such magnitude on American soil.
This time, the attacks occurred at the heart of New York City, the Pentagon, and a field in Pennsylvania.
Hey, 6 Alpha. What's up, ma'am? How you doing? Are you going to be able to get somebody up here? Oh, fuck, man. We're coming up to you. Well, there's no one here yet, and the floor is completely engulfed. We're on the floor, and we can't breathe. And it's very, very, very hot.
We got two. I started the pocket to fire. We should be able to knock it down with 2 lines. Wait on that. 78 floor. Moving 1045 go hard.
Freedom itself was attacked this morning by a faceless coward, and freedom will be defended.
In a moment, a beautiful September morning turned into the modern generation's day of infamy. And as with Pearl Harbor, a day marked by tragedy also became a day of exceptional heroism and selflessness.
Marines were among the first responders when our nation fell under attack on September 11, 2001. They, along with other citizens, joined the throng of firefighters and emergency personnel risking their own lives to help the many victims.
But I remember getting out my car and asking Mom, is everything okay? She was like, a plane just flew into one of the buildings. The plane just flew into the World Trade Center.
I left a clear sunny day on the Brooklyn side of the city. When I got across the bridge, I was ID'd by the NYPD. And I reached into my left breast pocket and I pulled out my old expired Marine Corps ID card and I showed it to him. I'll never forget what the cop said to me. He said, "Give him hell, Staff Sergeant."
A number of those first responders lost their lives right here. Like so many in the 10 years since that day, these Marines thought first of their duty and their fellow Americans, and they didn't hesitate to do the right thing.
I remember getting closer and closer to that last tower, and about a quarter of a mile away, I saw the tower collapse right in front of me.
And when I got towards Central Park, or Park Row South and Vesey Street, I ran into a group of about 5 military guys that were in their utilities like me. We came under attack. They got into their uniforms and they responded to help out. There's a couple Army guys, Navy guy, and an Air Force guy, and 1 Marine.
was great to see another Marine on site in his uniform, and he introduced himself to me as Staff Sergeant Carnes.
I saw the Marine there, and I said, "Hey, Marine, how about let's take a walk?" And we saw about a platoon size of firemen, about 20-some firemen standing in like a platoon formation. And I walked up to him and I said, "Staff Sergeant Carnes from the Marine Corps, to your knowledge, has anybody been conducting throughout the day search and rescue operations in the epicenter of the collapse?" They said, "No, Marine, if you go in there, you're going to die." We could see the 16 acres, and there was nobody in there but us. We started yelling out at the top of our lungs, "United States Marines, is anyone here?" We would listen and then proceed about 10 meters and then stop and yell again. We could hear some muffled cries for help coming from what was once the depression of the South Tower.
And I remember yelling over to Staff Sergeant Carnes, "Hey, I think I have someone."
I said, "Who do we have down there?" And he said, 2 PAPD police officers. They gave me their names. He had heard us yelling out United States Marine Corps. And he said to his partner who was trapped with him, Sergeant McLaughlin, he says, "Sarge, the Marines are here. We're going to get rescued." He knew that once he heard United States Marine Corps, that they were going to live.
Of the many first responders killed, 23 had previously served their country as Marines.
I knew 2 of those Marines very well. Both assigned to 6th Communications Battalion. The first was my gunnery sergeant, Matthew Garvey, who I'd known for 6 years. The other was a police officer who was a legend on a police department, as well as being a first sergeant at 6th Communications Battalion, Michael Curtin. Both perished that morning.
We lost 17 Marines that day. We honor them on our Marine Corps birthday, November 10th. We call the roll of all 17 Marines that were killed, and it's an honor and a privilege to be part of that celebration.
You know, Marine Corps, like when you go out in the combat environment, you know that your life's in jeopardy. I have to do my job to make sure that my brothers survive, and vice versa. It's the same thing when running into a building, the same thing on 9/11. I'm sure the brothers knew at that particular time that they were not going to make it. But they went in and they did their job, and their job was to get those people out.
On the days of both attacks, we saw the best of Americans at home. At that moment, strangers became neighbors, and we were all defined by only one word: Americans.
From operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, the stories of valor like Medal of Honor recipients Corporal Jason Dunham and Sergeant Dakota Meyer are examples of heroism that emerged.
This year we mark 10 years of continuous combat operations in which the United States has relentlessly taken the fight to the enemy.
We're going to be here for the people, no matter what it takes.
We'll build relationships with the locals. It's honestly the key to winning the sport.
The fighting in the area is getting better, and they only shoot a couple first, and then they leave because they know we're going to kill them.
I don't look back and wish I had the boy to think, why me? Because why not me? I wouldn't want someone else to get injured in my place. So I don't feel bad about what happened. Yes, I struggled like all women warriors do, but if I had to go back and do it all over again, I would definitely would.
You know, I didn't know how past generations of Marines would view our generation until I got off the plane in Bangor, Maine, and it was the receiving line of all your World War II vets and Vietnam vets, but they're clapping for us and calling us heroes. We're not heroes, we're just today's Marines.
As Marines, we will not stand down until the mission is complete and our nation is once again secure.
The indomitable spirit comes not only from the proud tradition of our nation, but from the confidence that our military forces will ensure no act of aggression against the United States goes unanswered.
Sergeant Major Parrott and I stand shoulder to shoulder with each of you. Thank you for your strength, your understanding, and your support as we carry out the mission of the Corps. Happy 236th birthday, Marines, and Semper Fidelis.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is customary at Marine Corps birthday celebration worldwide for Marines to cut a traditional cake in celebration of the birth of our illustrious Corps. The first piece is given to the guest of honor, Corporal Matthew Bradford. Symbolizing the experience and the youthful spirit that are hallmarks of our Corps. The oldest Marine present is Lieutenant Colonel Cordova. He was born on September 17, 1964 in Portland, Oregon. He was commissioned in the Marine Corps on April 15, 1991 and is currently assigned to Marine Wing Support Group 27 as the operations officer. The passing of the cake from the oldest to the youngest Marine symbolizes the passing of history and traditions to the next generation. The youngest Marine present is Lance Corporal Kenny Ordonez. He was born on January 11, 1992 in the Bronx, New York. He was enlisted in the Marine Corps on August 23, 2010 and is currently assigned to Marine Wing Support Group 27 as a warehouse clerk. Ladies and gentlemen, the commanding officer, Colonel Conley.
Thank you, Corporal Fox. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Marine Wing Support Group 27's celebration of our 236th birthday. Despite what you see on the cake, it is actually 236, not 237. But welcome. It is a pleasure to be here tonight, and my job is to introduce the corporal standing next to me. But before I do that, I'd like to recognize a couple of key players that made all this possible. First and foremost, thank you to the Ball Committee that made tonight such a spectacular event. From the sword arch that you see standing next to me, to the cake escorts, our color guard, and especially the folks that did all the action behind the scenes, it made this a very memorable night, and I greatly appreciate it. To the Marines of the 2nd Marine Air Wing Band, as always, you bring a lot of class to what would otherwise be a sordid event, so I greatly thank you. And most especially, to the Marines and sailors and families of Group 27. A lot has happened over the last year since we celebrated our 235th birthday. Done a lot of things. In all tasks, great and small, this staff, these Marines, these sailors have excelled. And by doing what they've done, we've supported squadrons that deployed to Afghanistan. We supported a squadron that went down to South America and back, and support a squadron that's down there now, continuing on what they did. More incredibly, we've done it with a smaller staff and less experience than we ever thought possible. And that's testament to the dedication and the professionalism of the Marines and sailors that are here. That's also testament to the encouragement and the support of the families and friends that are with us here tonight. Because we could probably do what we do, but we wouldn't be able to do it nearly as well without them. As the CO of this unit, I thank you for your sacrifice and effort, and I am extremely proud to serve beside you. The most important part now, I get to introduce the warrior standing next to me. When you watch the video, this is who the Commandant and the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps was talking about. Corporal Bradford enlisted in 2005, and after graduating boot camp and SOI, deployed with 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines from Hawaii to Iraq. While supporting OIF, patrolled the Al-Anbar province, which is probably the most lethal province on the face of the earth, for 4 months. In January of 2007, he was injured by an IED. What I find most incredible about that is that the injuries that were caused that day would have caused most of us to stop and say, I'm out, I'm done. I've done my duty, and we would have been justified. We would have handed the torch to somebody else, and we would have been done. But Corporal Bradford didn't do that. He got in there and he continued to fight. He fought at places like Bethesda. He fought at places like Fort Sam Houston. He fought at the VA in Chicago to gain back a life. He fought to stay in this Marine Corps. It is an honor and privilege to introduce to you tonight Corporal Matthew Bradford, United States Marine Corps.
Happy birthday, Marines. Me and my fiance are so honored to be here with you all on the Marine Corps birthday. I hope my story motivates you all like it motivates me every day to wake up and put my legs on and go to work on, blank. My story motivates me every day to be the person I am and get dressed the same every day. On January 18, 2007, we were on a roadside patrol, foot patrol. I was walking point and I ended up stepping on an IED that was tucked away into a pipe under the road. The last thing I ended up seeing before I completely went blind was what blew me up. The wires lined down the ditch, the white bag that indicated where the bomb was. And here, laying there on the ground, not knowing what happened, just hearing everybody around me doing what they were trained to do, getting me out of the country so I could try to, live. The last voices I heard before they put me in the high back and I passed out was from my senior drill instructor, which was also a platoon sergeant of QRF that day. He told me, "You'll be fine, Bradford," and that's the last thing I heard. From then on, for 3 weeks, I was in a heavily sedated coma. Once I woke up, I realized all that happened to me. I lost both my legs, one above, one below, internal damage, broken bones, and also vision blindness. At first, I wanted to just go ahead and I didn't want to live no more. I wanted to die. And I had great Marines at Bethesda who talked to me day in and day out. And it kind of flipped a switch. It made me think about things. And I was 20 years old when I got hurt. I had a long life ahead of me to live. And my goal from that point on was wanting to stay into the Marine Corps. I'd done everything I could, healing faster. I guess it is true when you're younger, you heal a lot faster. 2 months in Bethesda, 2 months in Richmond, and 3 weeks after I got to BAMC, I walked for the first time. Quick, that's pretty quick. But then the OIC, which was a great mentor for mine down at BAMC, he asked me what I wanted to do, and I told him I wanted to stay in. And he gave out all the options that I needed to do, and my response was no, I couldn't get on the computer. No, I'm not really mobile. So I ended up going to the blind school in Chicago for 6 months, learning how to get on the computer, learning how to independently get dressed, move around the house, and do everything on my own. And everything I did was, to stay in the Marine Corps. Once I returned back to BAMC, I pretty much started my year of rehab, what was left of my rehab, but pretty much getting out there doing events that not only inspired people but motivated me to do it. March of 2009, I told all the therapists, but once I do this, I'm done. I'm putting my med boards in and I'm going to start my Stay in the Marine Corps packet. It was the Bataan Memorial Death March in White Sands, New Mexico. I ended up marching 10 miles in the desert, and the next day I got back in my wheelchair because I wasn't on my legs, I was sore. I put in my med board packet there, and 2 months later, I got it back, and I had the option of staying in the Marine Corps or getting out. And I put in my EPLD packet, which gave me the option to stay in. And as of April 7, 2010, they approved my re-enlistment packet, and I re-enlisted back in the Marine Corps, becoming the first blind double amputee to re-enlist in the Marine Corps out at Brooke Army Medical Center. Now I work at the Wounded Warrior Battalion in Camp Lejeune, and also continuing to go to school where I can also think more after the Marine Corps, but learning to do schoolwork and becoming a student again. Throughout my last 4 years, I've learned to go for the adrenaline. I don't let nothing slow me down. I've learned to do everything that I probably wouldn't do when I could see. I've done things that people probably wouldn't expect out of a blind guy with no legs. From jumping out of a plane to surfing to this last Sunday, I completed the Marine Corps Marathon on a hand cycle for 3 years in a row. I've learned to do things with fearful. I'm not afraid of anything like that. I won't back down from anything. If something's in my way, I set my mind to it and I go for it. I don't back down. I figure the last 4 years is like a huge mountain for me that God seemed to put in front of me, and right now I'm in the middle of climbing it, becoming the best as I can be. Now that I'm in school, trying to become a straight A student, trying to be the best Marine, help out as many wounded or able-bodied people I can. Just trying to do the best things that I think that I want to do. And that's how I hope that all of you all live your life. I hope you live it without a worry in the world. Just to wake up every morning and know that you're alive. Smile on your face. Not wake up all depressed and sad where you don't want to get up. Just be excited you're alive and you're in the greatest country in the world. I want to thank you all for having me here. I hope I didn't mess this up too much, but I hope my story motivates you all, and feel free to come talk. Thank you.
I don't think there's any worry at all about having messed that up. I told Corporal Bradford when we were out there, it's good to have a corporal to guide you through these things, because as our enlisted folks know, officers can't drill to save their lives. So it's good to have a corporal show me how to get here and do this tonight. On behalf of the staff, the Marines, and the officers of Marine Wing Support Group 27, we hope you'll accept this small gift. Marine Corps locker. On the front says Semper. On the inside, Corporal Matthew Bradford. Thank you for being the guest speaker at the 236th Marine Corps Birthday Ball. Best wishes from the Marines of Marine Wing Support Group 27. And ma'am, because we don't do this on our own, thank you very much for coming tonight, and thank you for joining us. Marines, happy birthday at 75.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the retiring of the colors and the march off of the official party.
Detail. 2, 1. Praise that. Sword.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony. Please enjoy the remainder of your evening.